Excellencies, heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen. Your participation in the third No Money for Terror Ministerial Conference demonstrates the commitment that your countries have towards combating the common threat of terrorism and terrorism financing. I thank you for your presence. Terrorism is a growing challenge to international peace and security. Indeed, Prime Minister Modi has repeatedly emphasized that it is, in fact, a threat to humanity itself. It is therefore absolutely vital for international community to come together and collectively fight this menace. Our gathering is part of that endeavor. If the scope, scale, and intensity of the terrorist threat has increased in recent years, there are 5 reasons for this development. 1, the advancements in technology that terrorists access more readily than law enforcement and security systems. 2, the resurgence of radical ideologies and the more seamless spread along with motivational messages. 3, the phenomenon of globalization, whose interpenetration and interdependence opens up new vulnerabilities, including in the world of financial transactions. 4, greater competition among states that is exploited by terrorists, including the emergence of ungoverned and undergoverned spaces. And 5, the continued tendency of some to use terrorism as a tool of statecraft and a willingness of others to justify and obfuscate that. As a result, a phenomenon whose significance should have diminished with progress and prosperity has actually gained a new lease of life. The threats are greater, the capabilities are more, and our vulnerabilities have increased. The very efficiencies of the modern world are today being harnessed for evil purposes. The pain and suffering of victims and families multiply further when the right to justice is denied. When perpetrators, facilitators, and financiers of terror attacks continue to walk free, enjoy state support and hospitality. And the most egregious example we all know pertains to the 2008 Mumbai terror attack. Friends, it is a reality check that despite Security Council Resolution 2462 to curb the financing of terrorism, its implementation by member states remains uneven, in some cases due to lack of political will. The global fight against terrorism cannot succeed without conscious and coordinated efforts to counter financing of terrorism. Terrorist attacks often involve cross-border elements, be it recruitment of fighters, procurement of weapons and explosives, transfers of funds, or communications between cells. While cross-border support is behind terrorist attacks, the irony is that any response by authorities to terrorism stops at their geographical borders, because that's where their jurisdiction ends. These limitations for law enforcement agencies play to the benefit of terrorist groups. In India's context, terrorist groups from across the border, such as Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, or Harkatul Mujahideen, and their proxies thrive on assured financial support to commit barbaric acts of terror on Indian soil. Excellencies, colleagues, it is important that all states collectively follow an undifferentiated and undiluted approach to terrorism. Terror is terror, and no political spin can ever justify it. Most states today are making efforts to place effective and deterrent domestic controls against terrorist entities. There are, however, a few who still aid, support, and even justify terrorism, and willfully provide financial assistance and safe havens. While we must enhance the capacities of the former, the international community must collectively call out the latter. The world needs to rise above political divides and to address this peril. The battle against terrorism must be fought resolutely on all fronts, in all situations, and at all places. The challenge, however, is that while the bad guys think global and lateral, the good guys still think national and vertical. Hence, it is essential to encourage a whole of the government approach at home and a whole of the world approach abroad. And this can be achieved through sharing real-time information, exchange of evidence, witness statements, as well as adopting effective procedures for bringing terrorists to justice through prosecution or extradition, freezing of their national assets, preventing their movement through their territories, preventing supply of all types of arms and related material to them, and providing full cooperation to states where and against whose citizens terrorist acts are committed. Recent trends suggest that terrorist groups have found new ways to finance their activities. It appears that groups are quicker to embrace and adapt new anonymous financial and payment technologies and to collect and transfer funds while evading monitoring and enforcement structures. Misuse of new financial technologies and methods such as blockchain technology, virtual cryptocurrencies, digital crowdsourcing, prepaid phone cards have all posed serious risks to the effort of countering financing of terrorism. Apart from this, fake charities and fake non-profit organizations have become frequent sources of terror financing. We must particularly be on guard against such entities and their operations. Colleagues, long a victim, India has been steadfast in seeking effective and unambiguous action against terrorism and terrorist financing. India has developed capabilities, legal frameworks, institutions, and best practices to international standards to counter financing of terrorism. India has undertaken national risk assessments in recent years and is gearing up for its upcoming mutual evaluation under FATF. We are particularly focused on upgrading our financial intelligence network with new and emerging technological interventions to ensure quicker dissemination of terror financing cases to law enforcement agencies. I'm proud to share that during our ongoing term in the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member, the issue of counter-terrorism has been a priority for us. Last month, India hosted a special meeting of the Counter-Terrorism Committee of the Security Council in Mumbai and New Delhi, highlighting the threat posed by the misuse of new and emerging technologies, particularly fintech, by terrorists. The Delhi Declaration, a pioneer document adopted by the committee, is a manifestation of the collective will of the international community to build relevant legal frameworks and guiding principles so that threats can be addressed in an effective manner. Next month, on 15 December 2022, under our presidency of the Security Council, we will organize a briefing on threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts, a global approach to counter-terrorism challenges and the way forward. We will continue these efforts during our G20 and our Shanghai Cooperation Organization presidencies and will make all efforts to build international support and cooperation to address gaps in combating terrorism, including terror financing. Friends, peace, liberty, democracy, the rule of law, sovereignty and territorial integrity, and respect for human rights all underpin our international order. Terrorism attacks to undermine each one of these values. That is why India, along with like-minded partners, will remain committed and energetic to highlight the existential threats that terrorism poses to global security and stability. We will shine the spotlight on this peril and all those involved in nurturing and furthering it. Concerted action against terrorists and their sponsors, including dismantlement of terrorist safe havens, sanctuaries, training grounds, and financial and ideological as well as political support structures, are critical imperatives to defeat terrorism. Effective handling of criminal matters arising out of terrorism financing offenses requires strong international cooperation in the spirit of zero tolerance. The No Money for Terror platform aims to broad base the big fight against terror financing and is therefore particularly welcome. Excellencies, India reaffirms its commitment to strengthen international efforts to combat terrorism and terror financing. Let me emphasize from this forum that when it comes to terrorism, India will never look away, we will never compromise, and we will never give up our quest to ensure justice. I now invite my distinguished co-panelists to share their views.